Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the presentation of our nation's colors from the San Diego Fire Department Honor Guard. Singing our national anthem today is Morgan Murtaugh. Please remain standing and place your right hand over your heart.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Hello and welcome. My name is Grace Harris, and I'm a member of the Sacramento Community Emergency Response Team. I'd like to have the pleasure of welcoming you all to the California for All CERT and Listos Preparedness Conference.
Muy buenos días, me llamo Gustavo Agredano, vengo de Santa Bárbara, California y represento a Listos. Y quiero darles la cordial bienvenida a Voluntarios para California, donde CERT y Listos asisten y preparan a todo California. Gracias y bienvenidos.
Mikchuksus, Kochi Iyama, Kanio Ishe, Dory Beats, on behalf of the Tuolumne Band of Miwok Indians, Tribal CERT, and all of the California tribal nations, welcome.
In order to prepare for emergencies, we need to empower our diverse communities in this state, peer to peer, neighborhood by neighborhood, neighbor by neighbor, making sure that we're not only more prepared, but more resilient in the aftermath of emergency. At the end of the day, nothing substitutes for individuals being prepared and communities being resilient.
California for All Emergency Preparedness Campaign, it empowers all of us.
Family, friends, and neighbors working together to prepare for disasters, to educate, to support each other, help each other find resources, And we can all do that because everyone brings a skill set and life experiences to the table.
The campaign empowers AmeriCorps members to respond quickly and effectively when disaster hits.
Being a bilingual person, I can actually reach my Spanish-speaking people. I can say, hey, estás listos? Listos, when you're talking to the community, it means ready. Ready for what? Ready for a disaster.
So the California for All Emergency Preparedness Campaign is going to provide funding for existing CERT programs. The goal is for us to help get 1 million more Californians prepared for some kind of disaster in their area.
I talked to my mom and I said, hey, are you ready for an earthquake? And she goes, no, I'm not. What if we have a fire? And she said, no, I'm not. And I said, well, there's a class. Come over, take the class. My mom was actually so empowered, and she talked to her pastor. The second class, we actually had 150 people at the church.
So our team, the San Diego County Fire Authority CERT, was deployed to help with the campfire. We followed the direction from California volunteers. A third of my team went up over the course from the middle of December through the end of January. So we were up there on the holidays, but it was so rewarding. People on the team worked with mental health at the Red Cross shelter. We had CERT members working with the small animal shelters. We had CERT members working in the Hope Distribution Center.
As an AmeriCorps member, we help with community resiliency. We come in after natural disasters, and sometimes we have to take homes apart in order to rebuild them. When people are grieving, all they want is someone to listen to them. So after being in Paradise and after seeing the town be devastated, it just fueled my drive to help people by being present and by being compassionate.
All working together make a well-rounded team, and we can make a difference working together.
Listos es preparando a nuestra familia. Recuerde, listos, prepare su familia.
California for All is the California dream. It's this idea that every person can achieve a better life regardless of where they start out.
Good morning, buenos dias. My name is Karen Baker. I am the Chief Service Officer with the Office of the Governor at California Volunteers, and I'm here to officially welcome all CERT and Listos members to our California for All Preparedness Conference. Welcome. I know that when I spoke with Governor Gavin Newsom about his great vision to inspire our entire state and hopefully our country and the globe with this vision of an inclusive vision of a California for all, where everyone has access to the dream, and in the emergency preparedness space, everyone can and should be prepared. And when he spoke from the heart, he spoke of the CERT community he was most familiar with from San Francisco, NERT. Are they in the house? Yeah, you know they are. This special CERT team, he knew personally, and he said they absolutely changed lives. He's like, those are some of the soldiers I need, but we need Listos as well, and we need AmeriCorps, and we need the Fire Safe Councils. All of these amazing volunteer and service assets, along with AmeriCorps, need to be joined together throughout California to ensure our most vulnerable populations receive the preparedness assistance they need. And you are the team that is going to get the job done. Am I right? This 18-month campaign begins today with the very first milestone. And that milestone is this amazing conference. And I'm going to embarrass him for a hot minute. Can we just have a huge round of applause for Suva Tai? I'm going to get in trouble because that wasn't in the script, but oh well. I know that he will be at this microphone throughout our conference, thanking the many volunteers, so many here, and the staff that have worked in putting this conference together. So thank all of you for what you've done. You know, the governor and the legislature came together to join hands and make a $50 million commitment to a California for All campaign. That's what this is about, just the beginning of that effort. What we're kicking off today is the CERT and Listos part of that campaign. And I'm going to need your help in doing this. We're going to have a little rally cry. Let me tell you how that works. And what we're going to be doing, wait, before I do that, because I was just reminded by Justin, Justin Knighton, can we have a big round for him? Justin's been our producer, and we're very grateful for his talents because he keeps us on point. I have forgotten the single most important moment, which is to really introduce Governor Gavin Newsom via a video message. He was unable to be here, but please turn to the screens.
Hey everybody, it's Governor Gavin Newsom, and I'm very sorry that I couldn't be with you this morning. I am jealous because I love San Diego, and I love volunteering. No one stands taller than where he or she bends on one knee to help lift other people up. So thank you all for standing tall this morning and contributing to the life of our city and our state and addressing the issue of our time, and that is a California for all, bringing everybody together, regardless of race, ethnicity, and geography. It's all about each and every one of us reconciling. Our fate is connected to the fate of each and every one of us. And in that spirit, we need to prepare for the upcoming wildfire season, and that is to protect the most vulnerable Californians and to make sure that we truly are a resilient state. And that's the spirit of AmeriCorps. That's the spirit of Listos. That's the spirit of CERT. And that's the spirit that enlivens me. And I know enlivens each and every one of you, or you wouldn't be here this morning. So to CERT, thank you for, on a granular level, always preparing our neighbors to help support other neighbors. Those first 72 hours of a major emergency, you need one another because oftentimes the first responders aren't going to be able to get in to our neighborhoods. To AmeriCorps, thank you for always being there, for being an example, for making sure that you're in parts of the state that few people venture, and making sure you're in rural parts of California, making sure you're always there on call, as AmeriCorps has always done. And Listos, thank you for recognizing this, that cultural competency matters. In a state where 27% of us are foreign-born, a state with such extraordinary diversity, a majority minority state, Listos, we couldn't do this without you. To all of you, for your contributions, for your enthusiasm, for your faith and devotion to California, one extraordinary place we can all call home. Have a great day today, the next few days of the conference, and thank you for your extraordinary contributions. We're proud of you.
So I would argue we're ready for our moment, our rally cry to kick off the California for All campaign for CERT and Listos. So I want you to know there's just three simple words: California for all, okay? And what we're gonna do is I'll say it first and then you'll repeat. We'll do one little practice round on just the California word. California. California. Not loud enough. Everyone up, everyone up. We gotta get you up. And we'll see if this works better. I was a cheerleader in high school, so this is dangerous, okay? This is the big moment. This is us really coming together to kick off this exciting campaign. I want those signs up, and you better get ready. Are you ready to be loud? Okay. California. California. For all. Now that was a moment. That was fabulous. So I'm now going to be bringing to the stage two individuals that are incredible. Liliana Encinas. Where's the Liliana? I think she's coming. Here she comes. And of course, Suva Tai, our Director of Disaster.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Liliana Encinas. I am the Executive Program Manager for Listos. I've been involved with Listos since its creation, and I'm very happy to be here. I represent Santa Barbara City Fire Department, and I work for the Office of Emergency Services. So I've been working with the community since I came here from Mexico, and so I love what I do. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Suva Tai. I work for Karen Baker. Tried to call in sick today, but I didn't have enough sick days, apparently. I am very happy to welcome you guys to the 2019 California for All CERT and Listos Conference. I really shouldn't say 2019 because this is going to be the only conference, unless someone else wants to do it. If you have a volunteer to run the next conference, I think we have a little bit of budget we can send your way. But very excited, and we have a great show for you guys today. And we will get started with that. So the first person we want to bring up is going to be Chief Stoll.
Well, good morning. What a lot of energy in the place this morning. Didn't expect the dancing so early. But good morning. My name is Colin Stoll. I'm the fire chief with the City of San Diego Fire Rescue Department. And on behalf of the 1,200 men and women of our department, we want to welcome you to the City of San Diego. I'm not sure what took you so long to come back here and bring your conference back to San Diego, but I certainly want to welcome you, and it's a privilege to have you here. I have been with the department for over 31 years, and for the last 10 months, I've had the privilege of leading the men and women of the Fire Rescue Department as their fire chief. I want to thank the California volunteers for inviting me today to speak and welcome you to the city and open up your conference. For the past few years, we've seen many disasters throughout the United States, including wildfires and flooding here in the state of California. And just this week, you may have seen images of the heavy rains and flooding in the Midwest. And as you know, when these disasters hit, first responders move into action, and they're often stretched extremely thin in their resources. Public safety agencies are equipped and staffed to handle the day-to-day emergencies and even some of the small disasters that we face. But during the disasters that we saw here in 2003 and 2007, that we have seen regularly throughout the state now that have become the norm for us, we've realized that we need help. San Diego Fire Rescue knows how valuable the CERT members are and what they can make a difference are for the residents during the gap of time when first responders cannot arrive to provide assistance. As a fire chief, I'm 100% in support of the CERT teams everywhere. And I want to thank all of you who are active volunteers and for those of you who help support and train the members of the CERT teams. We have seen many occasions where the CERT teams really save the day in so many ways, from administering first aid, to providing search and rescue, and assisting the Red Cross, providing emotional support to the victims. San Diego Fire Rescue's CERT program was created after the massive and devastating Cedar Fire in 2003. Since 2004, we have trained about 2,000 members in our CERT program. And currently our CERT team has more than 200 local resident volunteers. We offer a CERT Academy twice a year for our new members. And there are a variety of other training opportunities offered through FEMA, because we know the skills are perishable and they need to keep practiced. We haven't had a major fire here in the city limits for a few years now, but we do know it's only a matter of time. And we recognize how valuable the CERT team will be for us once that disaster does hit. And while our volunteers are prepared year-round, I think we feel a little bit more concerned as we head into the fire season. Thankfully, the San Diego CERT members are ready to help no matter what disaster we face. Again, I want to thank you for the volunteers, for your commitment and selflessness. And to those of you from the agencies who support CERT teams, this is such an amazing program, and I appreciate your dedication and hard work and all that you do. So again, thank you very much for everything you do, and welcome to San Diego.
Now, please help me welcome Chief McGrath.
Morning, everybody. We had dancers, cheerleaders, and firefighters, everybody you love. You knew they had a book of Fun Sponge. Thank you to California volunteers for the invitation to be here today. I truly am honored and thankful for the opportunity to say a few words. Yes, my name is Chris McGrath. I am an assistant chief of the San Diego Police Department. I've been with them for 31 and a half years and very proud of that. I have the privilege of overseeing our police department support operations, which includes our critical incident management unit, which works very closely with volunteers in the county's Office of Emergency Services. My boss, Dave Neslite, actually happens to be at his own conference out in the East Coast in Miami. Otherwise, he would be here today. But he wanted me to let you know that he is very grateful for all of the efforts and the participation today in this conference and for the rest of the week. So thank you for all those folks that are here local that are attending this and also that are out of town that came here to enjoy it. I hope you get a chance to get out and explore it. This is a fabulous place to take in. Personally, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for participating in this conference. I can not agree more with Chief Stoll's strong support of CERT teams, Listos, and their value. With your attendance here this week, you once again prove how committed and dedicated you are to our communities and the citizens within San Diego and within the state of California. We're all extremely grateful for your participation and sacrifices when we need you the most. CERT San Diego is the largest of the CERT teams in San Diego County. We're very fortunate to be able to rely on them when they are needed. The San Diego Police Department has developed procedures over the years that are now in place that allow for a professional working relationship with volunteers of all areas of our county during disasters or critical incidents. The same circumstances, CERT would be activated. If CERT's needed by the San Diego Police Department, we just have to ask the fire department to activate our groups, and Chief Stoll is very happy to do that. To give you an idea of how well it works, the last major activation of CERT San Diego was during the 2007 Witch Creek fire. It was a devastating event for us who were here to witness it. It burned 288,000 acres, 2,000 structures, and caused the evacuation of thousands of people. In response to that disaster, CERT was activated. CERT volunteers provided 1,200 hours of service over 7 days. The contribution of those members kept firefighters and police officers available in the field to work in their respective areas of expertise. Thank you. Since the Witch Creek fire, smaller groups of CERT team members have assisted with flooding emergencies and other pre-planned large events in our city. You never stop finding ways to help. Again, thank you. Our police and fire first responders feel confident in if your activation is necessary, CERT will be ready to provide support assistance to accomplish any mission handed to them. You never say no. Again, thank you. We can all do our part to spread the word about CERT and Listos, the value of those programs, and of the selfless volunteers who make up those teams. But your organization and the people in it are the best recruiters. I know you will continue to receive well-deserved support. Our nation will continue to experience floods, hurricanes, wildfires, and other major emergencies requiring the mobilization of police and fire resources. CERT is a component of that mobilization. CERT is a force multiplier for first responders and a priceless resource for people living through these disasters. In closing, I would like to thank a few others this morning. Thank you to the San Diego Fire Rescue Department for being the host agency for CERT. Thank you to the state of California for its continued support and funding. And thank you to the California volunteers for developing this conference. Together we can encourage and further educate everyone about the importance of emergency preparedness and the phenomenal work you continue to do alongside first responders through selflessness and teamwork. Have a great day, have a great week, have a wonderful conference. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to call an audible here, and I'm going to ask the AV guys to move up 2 slides. I'm going to call up Chief Mecham next from San Diego County Fire Department.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me this morning. I want to start, Karen, I noticed that at the when we were up here that Chief Stoll was not dancing, so maybe at the break if somebody could give him a dance lesson, I'm sure he would appreciate it. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Tony Mecham, and I proudly serve as the fire chief for both CAL FIRE and the San Diego County Fire Authority. And welcome to San Diego. We are really fortunate to live and work in one of the most beautiful parts of the region, and hopefully the sun will come out here this week and you can enjoy some time. But living in this community comes at a price, and San Diego has probably been as affected as anybody in the country with our share of natural disasters. And when we go back and look at the fire in 2003, we thought that that was the anomaly, that that was a once-in-a-career fire. And then it hit us again in 2007, and we realized that, hey, maybe there's something here. And then it continued into 2014 and what we saw in 2017 and in 2018. And I think there's a few valuable lessons that we have learned for that. And the first is this approach that I speak about all the time, and that is it takes a village. Anybody who thinks that the first responders alone are prepared to completely handle a disaster, you're wrong. It is going to take all of us to deal with the disaster. We've also learned here in San Diego the spirit of cooperation and inclusion. I would not be successful without my partners from San Diego Fire Rescue, the Sheriff's Department, San Diego PD, all of the public safety agencies together. We made a decision many years ago to leave our ego at the door and focus on what is right for our communities. And I think it's really timely that you're here today. And I was thinking as I was driving in, the name CERT, and I think you're all at a crossroads. It started as a response organization, training people to how to respond when there's a disaster. But I think by the time the disaster occurs and somebody calls 911, it is too late. And so I think the key, and I was so glad, Karen, in your opening day, you talked about that we need to shift to a role of preparedness and resiliency. We need to prepare our communities for the next disaster, whatever that disaster is. California is going to have earthquakes. We are certainly going to have wildland fires. We are not going to put out every fire. But how do we prepare our communities to be more resilient and survive those natural disasters? And I believe that that is the challenge, and that is where CERT can certainly help. And I have 3 tasks for you as you move forward to the future and things that I see. We depend on our CERT program to fulfill a humanitarian mission that, frankly, we cannot fulfill. When we have a major fire, our firefighters and law enforcement officers are doing their primary mission. And what we don't have the capability to do is go in and check on our individual citizens. And I know in talking to Teresa and our CERT folks that were deployed to Butte County, they spoke extensively about how they were there for a humanitarian mission to try and get people fed and clothed and on the path to recovery. And we've certainly learned in wildland fires that it's not just a forest fire anymore. It becomes a community disaster with the losses measured in the billions of dollars. And I think all of you filling that gap of the humanitarian is really important. The second is I think that there's a greater partnership that can occur between CERT and fire safe councils. I see the missions as very closely aligned, and I think that you all could complement each other. So I would encourage all of you from CERT and Listos to reach out to your local fire safe councils and get to know those people and see where the commonalities are and how we can leverage moving forward. As we look into this fire season and what may come, my fear is that we will experience similar fire conditions to what we've had in the years past. And as prepared as we are, I don't think we are completely prepared to take care of our communities. And I hope and pray that in the next few days here that you will start to develop answers to some of those hard questions and be prepared. So on behalf of myself, Chief Stoll, San Diego Police Department, we want to welcome all of you and hope you enjoy your stay here in San Diego. Thank you.
So before I introduce the next speaker, I do want to have a couple of questions. One, who is enjoying their time in San Diego? Raise your hand. Right. So about 8 months back, when we decided to have a conference, we actually had 8 months this time. The last conference I did had 3 months lead time. We said, you know, we're going to host a conference in California. I don't want to decide where it is, so you guys decide. I was talking to a lot of the CERT leadership in the state of California. I said we have 2 prerequisites. One is you have to find a great hotel at a great price, right? This is a great hotel at a fantastic price. And 2, you have to find a partner. Conferences aren't cheap. And it's going to take more than just CERT programs. It takes partners, local partners, to really make it happen. So then San Diego says, great, we have a great hotel. They went to the Chamber of Commerce and found a lot of partners. And they said, we have a great partner. We have a local partner here that believes in CERT. And not only will they be interested in this conference, they've been supporting CERT for the last few years. Every single CERT program in San Diego County can get a grant from this organization. And I said, done, right? If they're already supporting CERT, they're not just in it just for a conference, let's have them be a partner. So please welcome the president of SDG&E, the reason why we are in San Diego.
Good to see you all. I don't think we're exactly the reason that you're in San Diego, but it probably didn't hurt, right? And it is a remarkable city. I think it's one of the most remarkable cities in the country. And it's a little gray out there today, but it's going to burn off, and you'll have quite the remarkable afternoon. I really am honored, quite frankly, to be here and represent the 4,000 men and women of San Diego Gas and Electric who do an amazing job every day serving our communities, and part of that is keeping them safe. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But Karen, I wanted to thank you and acknowledge your leadership and California volunteers. And honestly, the leadership of Governor Newsom has been quite remarkable in the area, in particular, of wildfire risk management and risk mitigation. And it is probably the #1 disaster risk that we face in California. And as the chief said earlier, it takes a village. So the work that we do with CAL FIRE, that we do with CERTs, that we do with really every stakeholder in California, to do a better job of reducing this risk and then responding to it is super, super important. I have a unique and sort of special appreciation for this topic of preparedness. Earlier in my career, I had a number of opportunities at SDG&E, but earlier in my career, I had direct responsibility for our emergency operation and preparedness function at the company, and as well as another utility. And it wasn't an area that I had spent a lot of time in, to be honest with you, before I ended up there. And so I got my assignment about 2 months before the effective date, right? So I thought, well, I better tune up on emergency preparedness, and really had a little bit of anxiety about it, quite frankly, because it was a big job. And so I'm doing that work. I'm finishing my old job, and then about a month in, before I start, there's one of the largest winter storms that we had experienced in San Diego. So there was no time to figure out what I was supposed to do in the new job. Fortunately, we had a very robust and well-developed program of emergency preparedness with a lot of professionals and a lot of smart people, right? So I showed up at our emergency operations center a month before I'm even supposed to be in the job, right? Got all this anxiety about the job. And I go in there, and there's people that have been thinking through this well in advance, that have been developing procedures, that have been running drills, that have been collaborating with CAL FIRE, that have been collaborating with local fire, collaborating with the police, collaborating with the CERT team. And it was so impressive to me how all of that came together and worked. But it was also really clear about how important it was to be proactive in that work. And so this discussion about CERTs as an emergency response mechanism and then migrating to sort of the proactive element really kind of resonated with me. And the work that you do really makes a huge difference in the community. And since that first evening in the EOC, over my time there, we dealt with more storms, cyber events, earthquakes, the major wildfires that the chief talked about. And the unfortunate reality is that those events are increasing in frequency, and they're increasing in magnitude or impact. And that makes the work that you do even more important, right? And I think, unfortunately, that trend is likely to occur while we all work really hard at mitigating risk. The work that you do and its impact on the communities is increasingly important, right? At San Diego Gas and Electric, we're really clear about what we stand for and what's important to us, and the areas that we really want to lead in, and we're very explicit about this, is we want to lead in the area of clean energy. We want to lead in safety, infrastructure safety, which includes emergency preparedness. And we want to lead in the reliability of our system. And so today, we're privileged to deliver 45% of all of our energy from renewable energy resources. So every light that you see today, nearly half of that is coming from renewable energy. We're a leader in the country in that space, and we're continuing to push the clean energy agenda for all of our customers and really for California. We are a nationally recognized leader in wildfire risk mitigation and preparedness. We take a lot of pride in that. That recognition has come through the collaboration that you heard others talk about earlier. It's not just what we're doing on our own, it's what we're doing regionally. And Governor Newsom was thoughtful enough to actually come down personally a couple of weeks ago and spend time understanding the science, the technology, the innovations, the things that are going on in San Diego to reduce catastrophic wildfire risk and thinking about how we apply those things to the state more broadly. And so, again, I thought his leadership was quite impressive. And people want the lights to be on, right? You don't, I shouldn't even say this now, but you don't want the lights to go out at your conference, right? Yes, that was bad. That was really bad. So we're really thoughtful about that. We're really intentional about that. And we're fortunate enough through the work that our folks do that we were the most reliable electric utility in America in 2018. And so, we take our role really seriously. We think we're an important part of the community and part of the village that was referenced. We're so serious about what we stand for and those things I just articulated, that our stated mission that we talk about every day across 4,000 people is we have the opportunity to improve lives and improve communities by building the cleanest, safest, and most reliable energy company in America. Right? That's what we do. And the nexus to what you all do, I was thinking about this as I was driving over, it's exactly what you do. The mechanism is different, but the work that you're doing is literally improving lives and improving communities. And it's quite remarkable, so you ought to give yourselves a round of applause for that. I think Karen mentioned there are representatives from 30 states here, from Chile and Mexico. So your reach is far and wide, right? So we are really honored to have you here in San Diego. We would love to see you continually come back. There's no better place to be, and have a great week.
Now I would like to introduce Dr. Kanuski with the Federal Emergency Management Agency.
Hello, everyone. I agree, this is a high-energy crowd. Well, I had the opportunity to fly here last night, got in, what a beautiful night, what a beautiful morning. You may want to just stay out here. I don't know if you heard about anything about DC recently, but the climate there, figuratively and literally, is not very conducive. Well, I'm Dan Kanuski. I'm the second-ranking official at FEMA, Deputy Administrator for Resilience. I focus on all of our pre-disaster actions at FEMA, so I was really happy to hear the previous speakers hit on what I think is a really important point. CERT isn't just response, it's resilience. And to the extent that we at FEMA, our federal partners, all of our state and local partners, many of whom you see here, thanks to the state of California for your support. I mean, $10 million over 18 months, that's a big deal. We together can make the nation more resilient. Let me tell you a little bit about how we at FEMA view resilience, and then I'm going to give you a few points about what I think about CERT. One, what does FEMA do? One, we want to build a culture of preparedness. It's goal number one in our strategic plan. Building a culture of preparedness for us means engaging all levels of government, the private sector, the non-governmental organizations, and CERT to do things like mitigation, insurance, and individual preparedness. Now, I know individual preparedness is definitely a focus of this group, but I do want to hit the other 2 points as well. Because I think it's important for all of us to understand what our goals are so we can advance them together. How many of you know a statistic related to mitigation? Now, mitigation means investing now to reduce future consequences, right? Take an action, specifically, usually a financial investment, strengthen infrastructure, strengthen a home, and you're going to reduce costs later. And that statistic used to be 1 to 4. It used to be $1 invested in mitigation yields $4 in losses averted later. Pretty impressive. But did you know that study was recently updated? And it's no longer $1 invested now saves $4. It's $1 invested now saves $6. So to the extent that I can have you help us get out the word on mitigation and saying, hey, I'm thinking about elevating my home or putting storm shutters on my home. I'm thinking of putting on some fire-resistant materials on my home when I rebuild. Please say yes. Please say yes, that's a great idea. Encourage people to make those investments as a homeowner. Make those investments at your community. Make sure your governments are taking these actions. Make sure a local government, make sure your mayor knows, your city council knows that you value mitigation. Because, by the way, mitigation saves money, but it also saves lives. And you say, how so? Well, I'll tell you what, I was in Nebraska a couple months ago, saw the serious flooding there. One community had taken mitigation actions. They had bought homes in vulnerable areas over time, thanks to federal grant dollars. In those areas where those homes would have been damaged or destroyed, 60-some homes would have been damaged or destroyed, there was green space, there was parkland. And that city, Beatrice, you can Google it if you don't believe me. It's funny, it's Beatrice. I had to pronounce that several times. It's spelled Beatrice. Beatrice. Sure, they corrected me several times. But Google Beatrice, Nebraska, and you'll see no homes were lost. Not one home lost in the recent very serious flooding because they made an investment in mitigation over time. But it also saves lives, like I said. Now, there was an area that was very hard hit. I won't mention the city, but it was very hard hit. They struggled to stop the floodwaters. They did heroic work. I'm sure they had a CERT team there helping. But many homes were lost because mitigation measures were not in place before the disaster. And if you go back to 2001 with Tropical Storm Allison in Texas, badly damaged Texas Medical Center, shut down as a result of that tropical storm. That medical center received significant federal funding after that disaster. They invested that money in mitigation, and when Hurricane Harvey struck, it remained open throughout that disaster, taking care of people who were hurt by that disaster in a way that they would not have been able to maintain operations, would not have had a functioning hospital had those mitigation measures not been put in place. So mitigation doesn't just save money, it saves lives, and that's in all of our best interests. The second area I mentioned, insurance. And before all of you fall asleep, let me give you some statistics. The US actually has the largest insurance gap in the world. Every year, we expect about $55 billion in losses due to natural disasters. $55 billion, it's a huge number. But what's even more striking is that $30 billion of that is uninsured. In other words, more than half of the losses from catastrophic disasters in the United States every year are likely going to be uninsured. Why does that matter to a CERT team? It matters because those individuals that you're responding to help, they're going to need a lot more help if they're uninsured than if they were insured. They're going to need assistance for the long term. They're going to need assistance in the short term and in the long term. Let me explain. First of all, If you don't have insurance, FEMA will be there for you as an uninsured disaster survivor. FEMA provides assistance to you. We want to make sure that everybody is helped after a disaster, right? But what most people don't understand is that FEMA can't make you whole. A disaster survivor will receive on average from FEMA a few $1,000s. That seems like a lot, and it's a lot in the immediate aftermath, but long term, not enough to rebuild. It's not enough to put your lives back together. Statistic to this point, Hurricane Harvey again. On average, those uninsured disaster survivors in Texas from Hurricane Harvey received about $3,000 from the federal government, from FEMA. And I'm proud, again, that we put $3,000 on average in the hands of a disaster survivor who needed it, I'm sure very desperately in the wake of that disaster. But if that same individual would have had flood insurance, since most of the losses from Hurricane Harvey were due to flooding, and flooding is not included in your homeowner's policy or your renter's policy, you have to call and get flood insurance from your agent. Please do that at the lunch break. But instead of putting $3,000 on average in the hands of disaster survivors, if you had a flood insurance policy from the same agency, from FEMA, you got on average $117,000. For a relatively low premium, this was not a high-risk area, you would have had the ability to more quickly recover, to rebuild, get yourself and your family back on a firm financial footing. But either because people don't understand that their home could flood, by the way, any home can flood. This whole thing about there's a high flood zone and a low flood zone, BS. I call BS, right? I'm the one that runs that program, by the way. Just because you're not required to have flood insurance, just because you don't live in the high-risk area and to get a mortgage, you're required to have it within that zone, doesn't mean you don't need it. 80% of the flood losses from Hurricane Harvey were outside the high-risk area. 80%. Most of those people did not have flood insurance. Most of them got, on average, $3,000. That is not going to rebuild those homes. So again, on my second point, insurance, please get out the word, the value of insurance. We owe it to disaster survivors. We owe it to our communities to be upfront with them about the value of mitigation and insurance before the disaster. I don't want them to find out the hard way after disaster. Now, individual preparedness. This is the one that's most relevant to this group, I'm certain. This is where CERT got its roots. In fact, I believe CERT started right here in California. It's what, 30 years ago? Since then, over 600,000 people have been trained to be CERT members. 600,000. Those 600,000 people, many of whom are seated here, seems like about 600,000, right? You have a tremendous opportunity here to get out the word on preparedness. Now, you might know that, frankly, it's important for us to be prepared to respond, but we also have to be upfront with individuals about mitigation insurance. You can certainly help us get out the message, but you can also get out the message about why they need to get prepared. Now, that needs to be tailored to your local communities. There are different risks in every part of the country. Certainly right here in California, we know wildfires. And oh, by the way, there's earthquakes. Right? We haven't had a catastrophic earthquake in quite some time. And what does that cause? Right? So, for you CERT team members, it's important not just to be ready to respond and support the population. It's important for you to get the message out now. On these blue sky days, get ready so when the sky turns dark, not just you, but your communities are ready to respond. Now, if you're looking for ideas on programming and such, I'm lucky enough to be joined by members of my team here. We have seated right here, Natalie. Everybody know Natalie Enclade? Natalie? So Natalie and her team lead the Individual and Community Preparedness Division at FEMA. Their goal is to support efforts like this. Their goal is to have a better, more prepared citizenry. Let's work together on that. Visit ready.gov, get ideas there, and then come to us and ask us how we can better help you. Now, it could be materials that we can provide. It could be some best practices. It could be sharing lessons learned. I think there are many opportunities to prepare for what we would call the big one. Now, it's ironic we're sitting here in California. The big one, does anybody know the podcast, The Big One? I should see a few hands. I mean, I ask this question virtually every time I speak, but we're in California, so you darn well should know about it. It's a great podcast called The Big One. It's about an earthquake in Southern California and what that would look like today. And more importantly, what we can do about it, how we can be prepared. I was so impressed with The Big One that I had the cast speak at a recent prep talk. I don't know if you know what prep talks are, but they are TED Talks for Preparedness, hosted by FEMA and some of our emergency management colleagues. So I just had The Big One speak here in California on that topic. We'll be posting that to YouTube very soon. I hope to make it go viral. Ask for your help on that. But beyond what we normally talk about, being prepared, right? We try to tell our communities to have a kit, an evacuation plan, and we make sure that you are properly equipped and you know how to help the communities. Let's go back to something I said earlier on insurance and have a conversation about if Americans are financially prepared. Well, let me give you a couple of statistics to make my point. Did you know that only 44% of Americans can put their hands on $400 in an emergency? Now, I didn't do that study, but I think it's really important and really relevant to what we're talking about today. It was done by the Federal Reserve, and it was done for this reason, because the Federal Reserve said, we believe that Americans are not ready for an emergency expense, so let's ask them if that's true. Turns out it's true. From my perspective, 44% is an alarming number. And that survey was done because people have unexpected health expenses, the car breaks down, an appliance breaks, and those are emergencies. Those are everyday emergencies. But we play a role in this. Beyond financial literacy, we play a role in this related to financial preparedness. I'd say that's a slice of financial literacy. And that slice is really important. Because if Americans don't have enough money for that emergency expense, one of which could be that tornado or hurricane to strike their home, then again, whose responsibility is this going to be? It's going to be the responsibility of their neighbors, their family members, you and me. Now, for those individuals, like I would suspect most of us, we have several $100s in a savings account or a checking account. But have we taken the action to take that cash and put it under your mattress or in your safe or in your sock drawer? And the answer is probably not, because you say, well, no, I have an ATM card, I have a credit card. Most of us do, right? But what do we know? For those of you that have been through a catastrophic disaster, you know that we were talking about the lights being out. What about the ATMs being out? What about that credit card swipe machine or the cash register being out because the power's out or communications lines are down? Well, what are you going to do if you don't have cash? And you think about that for a second, and you say, yeah, I don't know. How am I going to go get milk and bread from the grocery store that might be open, maybe no lights, no power, no communications, but if you have cash, you're going to get that loaf of bread. You're going to get that milk. You're going to get the bottled water, which, by the way, you should have had ahead of time, right? Yes. But the reality is, after disaster, cash is king. So in addition to calling your insurance agent at lunch, as soon as you get home, you're going to go to the ATM, you're going to take out some cash, and you're going to put that somewhere safe. But now let's talk about those that, even if they wanted to do this, even if they wanted to take this preparedness action, they couldn't, because they're living paycheck to paycheck. And that may be some of us, right? It's tough times. Well, what do we say to them? We don't just say, well, tough. No, that's not what we do at FEMA. That's not what we do as CERT team members. We say, what are the resources available to help? And at FEMA, we work with a bunch of nonprofit financial counseling and literacy organizations that provide low to no cost financial counseling and financial support to individuals who need it. One of those organizations we work with is a great organization called Operation Hope. You've heard of Operation Hope, but I was so impressed with the leader of that organization that we had him, John Hope Bryant, speak at a recent prep talk. That one is online, so you can Google John Hope Bryant and prep talk. It will come up. He explains the challenges that he learned growing up in the inner city, being very cash poor, having what he calls liquid asset poverty, not having the ability to put your hands on cash. Now you can see where I'm going with this, that if you can't put your hands on cash for any reason, it's going to make you less prepared for disaster. But I'm also telling you that we are taking action. One action is that we produced, together in partnership with Operation Hope, the EFAC. We love acronyms in DC. The Emergency Financial First Aid Kit, EFAC. It's on ready.gov. You can download it today. And that helps you as an individual and helps you, those that you serve, organize their records. Helps people understand the value of insurance. Helps people organize prior to a disaster. And then, oh, by the way, Operation Hope provides free financial counseling services to anybody who asks. Now, I can't give people more income, but these financial counseling organizations, they can help reduce expenses. The number one driver is what? High interest credit cards. If you can sit down with a financial counselor and consolidate your debt or reduce those high interest payments, you're going to have a little bit more money every month, aren't you? You're going to reduce your expenses. You're reducing your interest expense over time. And all I ask you to ask your citizens, set a little bit of that aside in your emergency cash account. That's going to be helpful for a disaster, and it's going to be helpful for any other unexpected expense. Now, the EFAC is available in English and in Spanish. And I will say that this message, by the way, this new message that FEMA has, we don't usually talk about financial preparedness. I don't know if your CERT teams do, but you should. It's making a difference. We started this effort about a year ago, and during Financial Capability Month last year, we tested our messages. We hit 28 million Americans in a social media campaign, and I was very proud of that. A year later, after a year of effort by Natalie and her team, you know how many we hit with that social media campaign this year? Not 28 million, 78 million. Thank you, Natalie. Now, we all know that our messages need to be tailored to our communities. I can tell you as a federal bureaucrat, my message is probably not going to resonate with everybody. Maybe not even in this room. We need you to be out in your communities. We need you to tailor your messages in whatever cultural context, whatever language, whatever situation your community faces. You all have different stressors in your communities that exist now, even before a disaster. And it's up to you to tailor those messages, to tailor those support programs. Because when the ultimate stressor hits, a huge disaster, that is not the time to figure out that your message isn't resonating. Now I'll tell you a personal story here as we wrap up. I started in this business as a volunteer. When I was in high school, I said, I want to help my community. I want to do something. I was anxious. I was in northern Minnesota, a very rural area. I said, what can I do? And, on my commute home every night. Commute isn't quite like a commute here, by the way. I always pass the local volunteer fire station, which is nothing more than a barn. We even called it the barn. So I'd pass there, and one day I stopped, and I saw the monthly meeting was on this date and this time, and I showed up. I said, I want to volunteer. And nothing that they could do about this, by the way. I'm not faulting them. They said, son, I'm sorry. You're not 18 yet. Can't volunteer. I remember how demoralizing that was. If only I had known that there were other programs out there. If only I had known there were CERT teams that specifically focused on high school students. Or if only I had known there was a Youth Preparedness Council. Now, that Youth Preparedness Council is something really special that we do with FEMA and partner organizations. 15 young Americans are selected for the YPC every year. One of those is right here with us today. Grace Harris. So Grace didn't take no for an answer. Grace is a junior at South Sutter Charter School in Placerville, California. Is that good? You're like, yeah, there's the East Coast guy. Yeah. Placerville, great place, I hear. So Grace, so she's a junior there, and she's planning to pursue a degree in nursing to become an RN. She's a wilderness first aid certified, and she has her basic cardiac life support and first aid certificates, and she's working with the Sacramento CERT team as a medic. In addition to participating in other community activities, she's also participating in Shakespeare in the Park. Very cool. Grace responded to the wildfires in Northern California with her CERT team. So one of your own is helping to prepare the country, and that's really remarkable. Now, as it turns out, I did okay. I managed to find a job in this community, even though I was initially turned away. But for 2 years, I struggled and said, man, all I want to do is be a firefighter. And eventually I became a firefighter. Eventually I became a paramedic. But I think back about how productive I could have been. How I could have contributed both to my community, like Grace has, as well as the county, the state, even the nation, like Grace will. So thank you, Grace. Now, I'll see Grace this summer in DC. We're going to convene the Youth Preparedness Council, and I look forward to seeing you there. Finally, I'd like to thank the organizers of this conference. Sue Va, man, what an amazing guy. He doesn't even know I'm talking about him. It's fine. Sue Va. He has no idea. Anyways. He's a ball of energy, and it's no surprise that this kicked off with a lot of energy this morning, given his involvement. Thank you, more importantly, to everyone here, not just for attending, but for everything you do in your communities to make them more prepared. I cannot thank you enough. On behalf of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, we owe you our deepest gratitude. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
So Dan forgot my official title, which is my new best friend, Suva. So before we introduce the next guest, I just want to tell a little story once again. Ball of energy, right? So we all remember high school, we remember movies, and you can instantly tell who's part of the cool crowd because they're standing next to somebody that's really cool. Like, wow, they're in the it crowd, right? In our business, we know there are people of great stature, and like, wow, they're standing next to this person, they must be great. There's two people that I always try to stand next to because I want to be great just like them, and I want to be great by association. One is going to be Anita Chant, who is retired OES, but is way over there, and is going to come down and visit with us. She used to run the Disaster Service Worker Volunteer Program, and you'll hear a little bit about her later on. But I always try to stand next to Anita and try to be right next to her and get some of that fame. And the next person is right next to me now, Vance Taylor, who is the chief of the Office of Access and Functional Needs for Cal OES. And if you've got a chance to meet Vance, you know what a great guy he is, how dynamic he is, and how people love him. So anytime I get a chance, when I go and get activated in the SOC, I'm like, there's Vance, I'm gonna stand next to him. I'm like, Vance, you gotta come down to this conference. I'll come and drive you down if you need to, so I can stand next to you, even for 5 minutes. But you know what? Such a good friend, I'm gonna give him 10 minutes, so I can stand next to him for 10 full minutes. Vance Taylor, everybody.
All right. I got to take Suva to all my meetings with me. Holy smokes. Look, anytime I get the opportunity to come talk to CERT, I'm excited. You guys rock. One of my favorite organizations. Thank you for what you do. Also, any chance I get to speak right between Dan Kowinski and Mark Kiladucci, that's a good day. On the prep talk front, I'm going to plug that program. Dan's done amazing work in putting that together. I actually gave one last year. Don't let that sour your opinion of the program. It's a great thing that they're doing. And big ups to Suva for putting together a big program. We love Suva. He's a good guy. You can see why Cal Volunteers is well suited for this particular mission of developing a California for all. My name is Vance Taylor. I'm the chief of the Office of Access and Functional Needs at the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services. That's a very long title, and I'm told that in state government, long titles are good, which means I'm winning. It cost a fortune to print my cards, but that's all right. The office was established in 2008, and it was created for one simple reason. Anytime there's a disaster of any type, of any size, in any place, at any given time, there will be one common factor. People with disabilities, older adults, individuals with access and functional needs will be disproportionately impacted and affected by that disaster. This is why in Katrina we saw that out of everyone who perished, 70% of all those individuals had an access or functional need. And so in 2008, the office was stood up within California because California does what California does. We lean forward and try to get ahead of this. And the office really has a twofold mission. One is to identify and understand what are the needs, what are the accommodations, what are the considerations that people with access and functional needs have before, during, and after a disaster. And once we wrap our arms around that, once we've identified those needs, how do we integrate them throughout every facet of the emergency management process, from our CERT teams all the way up to the governor's office? And I love integration. Integration works. I love California for All because it centers around integration for all. I know about integration from a personal standpoint. I know about it from a professional standpoint. I remember, how many people here are from California, by the way? All right. Hometown crowd, that's easy, right? There's San Diego in the house, right, everybody? Woo. Placerville, I saw that too. How many of you know what sixth grade camp is, sixth grade science camp? Right, if you're from California, sixth grade camp's a big deal. In sixth grade, sixth graders go away for a week. Parents love it because their kid's gone. Kids love it because they get to go just mess around in the woods, which is great. Well, in the Taylor home, sixth grade camp was not necessarily the same experience as it was for other homes. See, my sister and I are both in wheelchairs. She's older than I am, and when sixth grade came around, she was told 2 days before camp that because they couldn't accommodate her needs, she wouldn't be going. You can imagine how heartbreaking that was for her. And while her class went to sixth grade camp, Kathy went in with another classroom and did coursework. And when her class came back, she got to go back and listen to all these fantastic stories about how great sixth grade camp was. And so that was a pretty devastating thing for her. And when it was my turn, I had the expectation that I would have the same disappointing experience. Only before camp, our phone rang, and it was my sixth grade teacher, Mr. Dwelly, informing my mom that he had spoken with the school administration and made it clear that I would be going to camp. And not only would I be going to camp, but I'd be participating in all the same activities as the kids that my classmates would be. And so, trusting that it was going to be okay, she let me go. We followed the school bus up in a van, and I had a scooter. It wasn't even a wheelchair. It was one of those cool scooters you see people getting around in. I say cool because as a sixth grader, I could pull my friends from it. Not a bad way to get around. So my mom followed us up, and everybody unloads, and my scooter comes out, and I get in it, and she takes off. I was watching the van drive away, and as I did, I drove over a divot. My scooter got stuck and broke. And I watched her turn off the main road and leave. And thought, see you in a week. Because there's no cell phones, right? So she's gone. And I looked at Mr. Dwelly, and he looked at me, and we thought, that's rich. Didn't see that one coming. And Mr. Dwelly said, no sweat. And I spent that week literally on his back, as he gave me a piggyback ride everywhere throughout that camp. And when the kids went to the woods, I went to the woods. And when they went to the beach, I went to the beach. And they went anywhere, I went there too. And the cool thing was he was 6'3". So it was a perspective I was not familiar with. See, that's the thing about integration. It lifts everyone, you know. Well, it was a highlight in my sixth grade, but throughout my life as well. And many years later, my mom ran into Mr. Dwelly and said, hey, look, Vance is married, and he's got kids, and he's doing all these great things, and I want you to know sixth grade camp played a big part in that. Thank you for what you did for my son. And Mr. Dwelly got tears in his eyes. And my mom thought, well, that's because he was touched by what she had told him. Turns out it wasn't. He shared a story with her. He said, Mrs. Taylor, I want you to know the background, context of what happened there. Shortly before sixth grade camp, I was diagnosed with cancer. And it was a very bad prognosis. And I was mad, and I was upset. And I thought I'd just throw in the towel. And yet every day I'd go to class. And there was your son, this boy who through no fault of his own had his life falling apart, was losing the ability to walk. And there he was, smiling. There he was, laughing. There he was, having a good time, leading the crowd and having fun, with no bitterness and no anger. And eventually, in the middle of one rough night, I thought to myself, if that boy can get up and smile every day, then what's my problem? I can do this too. And I took him to camp because I knew that if it was the last thing I did, it was going to be to make sure that he had a good week. Well, things went forward, and I braved through my treatment, and I beat that cancer. And then with tears streaming down his face, he said, I want you to know that while I might have done a good thing for your boy, your son saved my life. And I think about that not because I'm a great guy, but simply because some would say fantastic. I wouldn't, but others might. But because that's the thing, when we stop to help another, when we stop to think about the role that we might play, and being the right person at the right time in somebody's life when they maybe need you the most, whether that's at camp or whether that's during a disaster. That's what integration is. I think about people who have to evacuate fires and they rely on specialized transportation. And when we plan right, when we've integrated for their needs, they get that ride and they live. They get to a shelter, and not only can they get into the shelter, they can use the bathrooms there. There's accessible cots. There's ASL interpreters. Specialized dietary considerations are met. Wraparound services are available for all Californians, regardless of the language they speak or the physical ability that they do or do not have. That's the power of integration. It saves lives, it eases suffering. And so I think about that, I think about each of us and the part that we play and the role that we have, and what a privilege it is to be able to carry forth this banner, to develop a California for all that raises us all. I want to close, but I want to do it with a commitment. As we think about integration, as we think about our parts, as we think about California for all, I'll lift and you lift, and together we'll ascend. Thank you.
So next, I just want to share a little bit about what Listos is, right? So Listos started as an idea. Listos means ready. And it started as an idea, and it started in the county of Santa Barbara, right? In a small city that we have that's called Carpinteria. And this idea was very successful, right? But as we all know, right, that if we want our ideas to flourish, we need partnerships. We need collaboration, we need support, and we need funding, right? And so we received our first major grant, right? And it allowed us to expand to 5 counties and share this great program that was Listos and was so successful with some surrounding counties. And so we were able to start Listos in Alameda County, Contra Costa County, San Francisco, Riverside, and San Bernardino. And that was with our first grant. And it was very successful. And so then we said, well, we keep having ideas and the program keeps growing. And so we said, well, we need support. We need to continue collaboration. And so thanks to these partnerships and for this ongoing support, right, through the California Office of Emergency Services, I am very happy to introduce a person that has been supporting our programs such as Listos, such as CERT for a very long time. So Director Mark Ghilarducci, please come up to the stage.
Wow. It's going to be very good morning. First of all, good morning. Good to see you all. Always hard to follow Vance, though. He is truly one of a kind. Really an inspiration. I know he's an inspiration to all of you. I just watched you all listen and stand for him. I'm lucky enough to have him in my office every day. And I mean, he's usually in my office every day. He is a staunch supporter and advocate and reminder of what we continually need to do to address the needs of all of Californians in the emergency management spectrum. His concepts of integration are exactly what we do and continue to do and evolve, and really what is all about your conference here. And so we as a state We as an agency, and of course myself as the director, are very appreciative of Vance and all of his efforts and all of his work for California. I wanted to take a minute, first of all, to congratulate you all, and great to see you all, and again, another great opportunity to come together. Since we were together last, though, it has been an incredible, somebody has got a underarm, what is that? Old Spice commercial, I like that. What's the message there? It could have been for Vance, I don't know, but probably was. Since we were together last, we have had an unbelievable number of disasters in California, impacting almost every county in the state of California. But not just California, across the country, around the world, there have been an unprecedented amount of disasters that have been taking place, from everything from earthquakes to fires to floods to storms and hurricanes. You know that since 2012, here in California alone, we've had 16 presidential disaster declarations. Unprecedented number. Before that, we had not had a presidential disaster declaration since 2008. But since 12, we've had 16. And hundreds of states of emergency. And we have seen it all in these last few years. We've seen earthquake. We've seen major flood. We've certainly seen fire. We've seen the largest gas release in the U.S. history in Aliso Canyon. Massive oil spill in Refugio in Santa Barbara County. We've seen a terrorist attack in San Bernardino. We've seen a spillway collapse up in Oroville. Asymmetric events, but all events that have impacted our communities, impacted all of us. And of course, climate-driven events like drought, 5 years of it, followed by unbelievable catastrophic wildfires. In fact, in my years, 30 plus years of doing this, the kinds of wildfires that we're seeing with the catastrophic outcomes are like we've never seen before in modern time. And it was bad enough in 2017 when almost all of the state was under a red flag condition, where we were having fires break out. And of course, late in the year, having the North Bay fires and then spread south down to Ventura and Los Angeles and San Diego. The catastrophic events of the 17 fires were something that we were just blown away by. And at the end of that session, that season, that year, of course, we started 2018 with the mud flows in Santa Barbara and Montecito. So I think, wow, we're ending a year tough. We're beginning a year tough. But that was just the beginning of 2018. 2018 presented an even worse year than 2017, ending with, of course, the Camp Fire and the Woolsey Hill Fire down in Southern California, and unfortunately the mass shooting at the Borderline Bar. These events, all told, in just 2 years, we lost 38,000 destroyed homes and businesses and over 300 lives. Countless impacts to people's lives, our economy, our business, our communities. Our responders, our fire, our law enforcement, emergency management, our dispatchers, our public health workers, our hospital, everybody was stretched. But the one constant across the board that we always counted on and we knew that we're engaged were all of you. All of you. Whether it was assisting at a disaster assistance center or supporting a search and rescue operation or providing traffic control or assisting with animal rescue and support or assisting with people with access and functional needs or helping at the State Operations Center or an EOC. It didn't matter. You were there. The community, the true fabric of what I believe the whole of community is all about. The CERT program, volunteerism, Listos, it's about self-reliance and building a capacity and ensuring that our communities, right? They say all disasters are local, where people go to church and where they go to school and where they shop and where they live and where their community is and where their favorite Starbucks is located. It's the community that needs to come together, and you all, and I've seen it time and time again from one end of the state to the other, and talking with my colleagues across the country in state by state, you bring that community fabric together. You keep that community fabric together. You are the community. You really are the whole of community. You know, there was over 100 CERT members responded to the campfire in Paradise. Phenomenal amount of effort. We now have, we mentioned Listos, we now have expanded out to 30 different counties in Listos, building the capacity. We continue to support and build out CERT throughout the community. And previous Governor Brown and now Governor Newsom in establishing and reinforcing and buying in and supporting this effort, this California for All effort, is a recognition of all of your efforts, of your importance, of how we need all of you in this one team, one fight effort, or as Vance would talk, this integrated approach to be able to continue to prepare for, respond to, and ultimately recover from these disasters. We don't expect anytime soon, as the climate continues to change, as we continue or remain in this window of extreme weather conditions and other kinds of extreme conditions, as we see an increase in population in the state, an increase of building, all of these efforts coming together, we do not see a slowing of these kind of disaster events, which really means that we need to continually and always and steadfastly continue to prepare for the events that may take place. And there is no silver bullet. There is not one silver bullet to how we prepare. There is nothing linear about disaster preparedness or management. It is a whole of community. It is public and private and non-governmental and faith-based. It is our community, our businesses, our industries coming together on a common set of objectives to be able to ensure that we can collectively be resilient to these events and make sure that the fabric of our community continues to remain together after each and every one of these events. You are critical. You are a cornerstone to that effort. And I could not be prouder of you and more deeply appreciative of all of the efforts that you've all done, not only here in California, but I know, speaking for my colleagues across the United States, the efforts that you all engage with if you're here from another state. And sometimes we do agreements where we bring in mutual aid from other states. That effort is truly one team, one fight. And as we sit here today, as you know, the central part of the country is experiencing massive disasters from flooding. They had last night, the count was over 200 tornadoes that have hit the central states and have destroyed and damaged and injured and killed many people. So things aren't slowing. We're going to be going now into another hurricane season, and we're going into another wildfire season. And so we need you. And this year, there's some additional funding as a part of the California for All Preparedness campaign. There's a number of different initiatives that we're going to be working on to increase the level of preparedness capacity across the state. in our local governments, in our private sector, in our state agencies, working with our federal partners. We're going to continue to do that. We're investing large amounts of money to support CERT, to support equipment and training and education, to support Listos, to expand these programs, to ensure that you have what you need to get the job done. So I just wanted to take a minute and just, really express my sincere gratitude, the gratitude of Governor Newsom. Of course, the disaster started with one governor and went into another governor. Transition, it's been interesting and good, because one was the governor, lieutenant governor at the same time, now the governor, both experienced these disasters collectively, simultaneously, and both extend their great gratitude to all of you. So with that, I wish you all a fantastic conference. I know you're going to do great. I look forward to seeing you in the field. Keep up the great work, and have a great rest of your week. Thank you.
Mark Urladucci, you matter to us very much. You're a great validator and a believer, a deep believer in the power of Listos and CERT. And this room is so grateful for that faith. I'm going to give you another round because that matters. I also wanted to do a special shout out. There's a lot of both former and current first responders in the room. If they could please stand. Our first responders. All of you. We all know that CERT and Listos works in deep partnership with our first responding community, and so we are so grateful for your heroic acts and also your ability to just thoughtfully get us engaged and make a difference where we can help and offer extra hands. So thanks to you all for that. Our final speaker this morning, we're ending ahead of time so you can, socialize, right? But the next individual I'll be introducing is involved with a great third partner. You see on some of these banners, you have CERT, Listos, and then the AmeriCorps seal. I want to explain AmeriCorps. Some of you may know of it, some of you may not. We do have AmeriCorps members here, if they can stand. It's great. Woo! So AmeriCorps, it's a national service program where you serve either part-time or full-time to serve your country. Just like you do military service, you do national service. These are people that are deeply committed to helping solve community issues. They work in teams often. They're passionate about their work. There's 65,000 people serving in our country, about 8,000 here in California. You often will work alongside them in times of disaster, either because there are AmeriCorps, American Red Cross crew, they may be our AmeriCorps National NCCC crew that is here, and CCC as it's also known. There's great AmeriCorps partners and players throughout the state that we are in partnership with this initiative. And when we really roll out California for All, and we literally hit the 1 million vulnerable community members, we're going to be doing it side by side. The federal agency that provides the funding for AmeriCorps comes from an agency called the Corporation for National and Community Service, also known as CNCS. And they have a CEO who is truly remarkable, and that's going to be our final speaker. Her name is Barbara Stewart. And what makes Barbara incredible is a bunch of things. First of all, she's worked for lieutenant governors and governors, so she's worked in the public sector. She gets that. She's worked with J.P. Morgan Chase. She gets the private sector. She understands how they come together. She's worked in the foundation world. She has this wonderful cross-sector knowledge that I think makes her very, very valuable. And her passion for this service work is amazing. I have worked with a lot of different administrations, 3 governors, several presidents, and their teams, and she is truly extraordinary. And I have to tell you this, we are so lucky that she came all the way from Washington, D.C., because she thinks you're the bomb. And so she came all the way out here. So please join me in bringing Barbara Stewart to the stage.
So buenos dias, good morning. It is a delight to be with all of you. When I woke up this morning, I had no idea that I would be dancing on stage, and I certainly had no idea I would be shedding tears when Vance was speaking. What a powerful, powerful message he had. And to all of the speakers, really wonderful, powerful messages. So it's an honor to be with you here in California. As Karen said, it's a long trip, but it was definitely worth it. And let's give another round of applause for Karen, who is your unbelievable fearless leader. Karen is really one of a kind, and you are super lucky to have her. She is creative, she is passionate, she's passionate about the work that AmeriCorps and Senior Corps does, she's passionate about disaster work, and she's passionate about volunteerism. And you are very, very lucky to have her, and when she told me about this conference, I knew I had to come. So it's an honor to spend the morning here with all of you, to see what you're doing to help your neighbors in need, and it's just really a special, special occasion. As you all know, the best way to prepare for disasters is to have strong leadership from local communities, from first responders, from city leaders, and from citizen volunteers, the people who are here in this room. And looking around this room, that's exactly what I'm seeing. Local leaders dedicated to making their communities more resilient and more prepared for whatever may come down our paths in the coming months and years. But emergency management also requires teamwork and partnership at every level before disasters strike. The best approach is federally supported, state managed, and as you're all well aware, locally executed. That teamwork is on full display here, and I want to thank again and acknowledge some of our great partners. Dr. Dan Kanuski and FEMA and CNCS have had an amazing long-term 25-year partnership, so thank you very much to you and your team. We have we've worked together to develop a branch of AmeriCorps that we call FEMA Corps, and that group is crucial for responding to disasters and also has created a fantastic pipeline of young people who go into service at FEMA after their year of service with CNCS. And on the state level, California OES has been an outstanding partner with California Volunteers and AmeriCorps. And of course, Karen's team at California Volunteers, and Suva, who I'm now told is my new best friend. That's his new title. So that will be the title we have for him going home. But as you all know, he has done an amazing job, not just with this conference, but with the work that he's leading. Super important, mobilizing national service members and volunteers, mobilizing all of you in advance of any type of disaster. And as you know, they have been countless. And as Karen beautifully described, we have AmeriCorps in the house. Wonderful to be here with my AmeriCorps colleagues. The California Conservation Corps, American Red Cross, and our very own National Conservation Civilian Community Corps, our NCCC program. So again, thank you very much for those of you who have chosen to spend a year in service to your communities through our AmeriCorps program. I'd also like to thank San Diego Fire Chief Stoll, Assistant Police Chief McGrath, and the other first responders and city officials who are the first on the scene when disasters strike. As been mentioned by previous speakers, the local connection with all of those organizations, with all of our first responders is so essential. California is a trendsetter in so many ways. You all are the birthplace of the film industry, of the amusement park, personal computing, skateboarding, and so much more. You're also a leader in another important way, and that is that this is a state that puts service and volunteerism at the center of solving problems. You're always looking for new ways and new and innovative ways to engage citizens to meet the needs of your state. And that's especially true when it comes to disasters. The CERT concept, as was mentioned, was developed by the Los Angeles Fire Department after they recognized the key role volunteers can play in disaster response. And it's grown to an international movement. I'm told there are more than 2,700 CERT programs in all 50 states and abroad. So congratulations for being the innovator of this amazing and important concept. And the California for All Emergency Preparedness campaign being launched today is a true game changer. This program will transform the way communities across the state prepare for disasters, and we are extremely proud to be partners with you. We at CNCS are really grateful to be partners with you in this effort. I commend Governor Newsom, California volunteers, and California OES for taking this very bold step to invest in national service and volunteer programs to prepare and strengthen preparations for disasters. We at CNCS are, again, proud to be your partners in this cutting-edge initiative and frankly hope that other states, many of whom are represented here today, will take your lead. While California has many FERTs, we have to travel almost 3,000 miles, and I know because I did it yesterday, and more than 250 years back in time to find the first all-volunteer disaster preparedness organization. In 1736, Benjamin Franklin started the Philadelphia Union Fire Company, also known as the Bucket Brigade. And after visiting Boston, he wrote an anonymous letter to his city, making the case that it would be far less costly to prevent fires, sounds like something we've been talking about this morning, than it would be to deal with the consequences of fires. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, he wrote. And those words gave birth to the first all-volunteer fire department, a proud tradition that continues to this day in many parts of the country. And they underscore the wisdom of CERT, Listos, and the California for All initiatives that are being launched today. Franklin knew the secret to success was engaging citizens in making their communities safer. And that ethic of service, so fundamental to our nation's character, is renewed every day by citizens like you who generously give their time to help others in need. Our research shows that more than 77 million Americans volunteer through an organization, and tens of millions more volunteer with neighbors in their community in a non-organized fashion, in less formal ways, but seriously meaningful ways. As you all know, volunteerism improves our communities, it unites our neighborhoods, and it helps to keep our nation strong. Volunteers also help themselves. Our AmeriCorps members are perfect examples of that, but also all of you in CERT and Listos have the same experience of expanding your networks, frankly, improving your personal health and experiencing, most importantly, the satisfaction that comes from serving a cause greater than yourself. Having trained and organized volunteers is especially critical when it comes to disasters. It's not just the essential services that you provide, it's the hope and the healing that results when you help an individual or a family at their time of their greatest need. There is another key point, because every time a disaster strikes, people want to rush in and help. That's who we are as Americans. But we also know that volunteer efforts need to be organized and they need to be managed correctly. If not, you could truly have a disaster within a disaster. And that's where CERT and Listos and AmeriCorps come in. That's why these organizations are so very important. These programs provide the structure and the training to support professional responders and to more effectively manage volunteers. So simply want to end by saying thank you. Gracias por su servicio. Thank you for your service. There are so many things that you can do with your time, so many other demands, and you choose to serve. You choose to be part of the solution, and our communities and our country are better off for it. Unfortunately, disasters aren't going away, and in many places, they're getting worse. To meet this challenge, we need to innovate. We need to collaborate. We need to invest, and we need to build a culture of preparedness. You can count on CNCS to be at your side for that. Working with state and local partners, AmeriCorps members and Senior Corps volunteers provide structure, consistency, and continued support when disaster strikes. They speed up recovery, helping survivors get back on their feet, and they stick around long after the cameras are gone. Over the next 3 days, I hope and encourage you to soak up as much as you can, make new friends, and go home with a new and inspired commitment to your community and helping make everything even better prepared. To the emergency managers and first responders here, keep supporting and partnering with CERT and your volunteer efforts. If you aren't connected with national service, look us up. Every state has a state commission like California Volunteers, although none quite as well organized. And most are charged with managing volunteers in disasters. So if you're not from California, encourage your governor and your other leaders to invest in preparedness. Make the case that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. To the young people here, if you want to take your service to the next level, I encourage you to check out AmeriCorps. You can gain skills, earn money for college, and explore a career in emergency management if that's your interest, all while making a difference for others in need. And to those young at heart, but perhaps a few more years advanced in age, you can also serve in AmeriCorps or in one of our Senior Corps RSVP programs. Many RSVP volunteers are engaged in disaster preparedness or response work. And to the CERT and Listos volunteers here, keep it up. Gracias, thank you. I greatly appreciate being invited to this really spectacular event.
So some bad news. We are technically done with speakers, but we aren't done speaking yet, so I'm going to ask you to continue to sit down for a little bit. We got a lot of great information still to come for the next 20-25 minutes. I'm going to go over the conference agenda a little bit, and I'll tell you how the next couple of days are going to go. But we've been hinting at some a new project that's going to be out. So I'm going to ask, not you guys yet, John Gilbert, please come to the stage. So John is a volunteer with LA City Fire Department. I'm going to ask him to do a short introduction.
Thank you, Subha. Thank you, I appreciate it. I'm the geek walking around with the camera, so. My name's John Gilbert. I'm a member of the Los Angeles Fire Department CERT call-out team. And I'm really happy to be here. I'm also an Emmy-winning film editor, and for years, last few years in CERT, I kind of felt like I should keep my professional life separate from my volunteer life. And then after, when we hit 2019, I thought, that's stupid. I have an ability to make videos, and as an editor, I can do it all, pretty much in my own garage, basically, and it doesn't cost anything, or it costs a little. So I thought I can bring my talent and my abilities to CERT and to the Los Angeles Fire Department and Cal OES, and make a video, instructional videos, what is CERT videos, and what we're going to see today is the history of CERT, which I put together just a few weeks ago, so I kind of rushed through. But I appreciate the chance to do this, and I'm thrilled to be here, so thanks, everybody.
Assistant Chief Frank Borden at the time was responsible for the whole idea and concept of CERT. And it really kind of came from some history back from Japan and Mexico City back in 1985 when they experienced significant earthquakes.
I'm Frank Borden. I'm actually honored to be called the father of CERT. It's a title that I appreciate very much because since I did develop the program, develop the concept of the program, of course I was surrounded by good people. I picked good people to make sure the program went ahead and went ahead well. But I do enjoy that title very much, and I appreciate
Okay, stop video, please.
being called the father of CERT.
Turn the lights back on. Okay. So I'm going to tell you about something. You know, CERT's not perfect. Listos not perfect. Maybe AmeriCorps is perfect. I don't want to downgrade AmeriCorps. Right? 2,800 programs nationwide. CERT is in several countries now. It's a lot of programs, right? 600,000 people trained in US alone. It's not perfect. What's not perfect? This guy, this great volunteer in LAFD is making great videos. You guys have never seen any of his videos, right? They're universal videos. If you are not at this conference, you will not see this video. You have it. I stopped it, right? That is the problem with CERT. You have all these volunteers with great talents creating great things. We have programs creating great things across the nation, and they only get to share with the people they get to meet at a conference, right? How many business cards do you exchange? So you might be creating something really great, like Chinese CERT, like Armenian CERT, like a great way to do fire pans. But you only get to teach 4 or 5 other people, and that's it. 4 or 5 people will benefit from your CERT experience, and that's it. What about the rest of the nation? What about the rest of the world? That is the problem with CERT. There is not enough communication. There's not enough bandwidth. We all know that with the programs, you have maybe one program manager dedicating 10% of his time to CERT. California Volunteers receives about $50 million in budget from CNCS. Our CERT budget, $50K, $100K, right? So our percentage in California Volunteers at 1.5 staff out of 25 total staff, that is our budget at the state level for the CERT program. At the national level, it's probably even worse. There's 2 people, one of them is here, Andy Burrows, and the other one is Tyler, who spend, Tyler I think now these days, 25% of his time. Andy, 50% if he works overtime, and probably unpaid overtime, to do a lot of stuff for CERT. There's not enough, right? Your programs thrive because of volunteers. This conference thrived because of volunteers. We paid nobody to do anything for this conference. It was all pro bono staff, it was all planning team members, it was sponsors and everything. So how do we fix that? We have to fix that. We can't go away and then have nothing again. You're not going to see the end of this video until we fix it, right? So we have a fix. So sit tight for another 5 minutes, okay? I'm going to invite 2 no longer new best buddies, I have new best buddies, but let's call them quote-unquote old best buddies. Chief Cunningham from North Collier Fire in Florida, who actually was the lead for the last national conference, and then Steve Tatlow from the state of Missouri, who is leading the next state national conference. Come on the stage, and they're going to share something with you.
Good morning, California. Good morning. Good morning to all those not from California. Woo! All right, it sounds like we're just as loud, so California got some more work to do. So, after that great introduction from Siva, we are up here to announce to you for the first time ever, with the help of Andy Burrows and the team out of Washington and FEMA, we are now, this is going to be tonight, the very first meeting, the first informal meeting of your National CERT Association. And this association is going to be out there working for you, and Steve's going to talk a little bit about what we're going to do. But what we have done over just the last few months, truly since we met in Naples last year, the concept of putting a national program together to make sure we're working with all the state programs to be able to support and be able to synchronize together and integrate together and collaborate together to make CERT once again energetic and renowned. As good as you have it in California, we need it that way across all 50 states, and we're going to work for you doing that at the national level. So we've had a couple phone conferences, and if you are one of the 20 members of the new board of directors, if you'd please stand, and if you're one of the FEMA 10 region administrators, please stand up, and, along with Andy and your team, to be recognized as your newest members of your National CERT Association. Stand up. And we're going to be meeting tonight at 5:30. Everyone is welcome to attend that meeting with the intent that we're going to put together a program. But just last week, some elections were held, and the president of your new National CERT Association, none other than, you guessed it, Suva. And they made me vice president to try to keep a handle on him. But that's going to be a run in itself. But I'm going to turn it over to Steve to explain what we're going to be doing with your National CERT program.
Yeah. So, as Jamie said, we got started really in August, and it was a lot of organizations, a lot of people sitting around at the conference, in that networking time around those dinner meetings that sort of informally occur, just really sharing, our dreams and hopes of what CERT could become if it was really collaborative at a national level. And so, as Jamie shared, we elected officers in the last week. A group has been meeting. We met last night to begin forming the vision and mission statement. We'll meet again tonight to really finalize that vision and mission statement for the organization. Our board members for the National CERT come from all 10 FEMA regions around the country, so we really sought to have diversity both in geographically as well as programmatically, our representation for the board. We've got a goal to have finalized bylaws for the National CERT Association by the September meeting when we return back to Florida. We were going to continue to seek nonprofit status, so to become a 501 something type of organization, possibly C3. That membership will be, or that organization will be very membership driven as well. So it'll be a membership type of nonprofit. Currently, the thoughts and functions that we're looking at include hosting national CERT conferences, highlighting best practices from CERTs all around the country and beyond, to really look at mentoring and training, to develop a resource library and resource sharing of best practices, and to develop a certain newsletter. Basically, what we're really focusing on is empowering communities through capacity building with this National CERT program. So that's all I've got for you. So stay tuned.
So we are meeting tonight. Again, if anyone wants to sit in and listen to that board of directors meeting, you're more than welcome. 5:30, and it's in the Mission Bay room. Mission Bay is where it's at, 5:30 tonight. See you all there.
A couple of things that they neglected to mention before we go back to the video, because now that there's an announcement, we can finally share the video, is that the National Association isn't just going to be for people elected to the top levels. There's going to be 3 levels that we're going to design. We're going to have the top levels, which will be the board of directors, helping to shape the organization, helping to make priorities. We're going to have a middle level. The middle level is where you guys all belong. These are the working bodies, people who want to donate their time to make videos. People want to help to donate their time to make guidance. People want to donate their time to make a great website or resources for the CERT program. And then we're going to have the membership level. So every single person in CERT can join as a member to support this association and get communication and get access to wonderful resources as well, too. Every single person registered on the National FEMA website will get access to the National CERT Association. So that is something that we're going to be pushing for, and that's something we're going to make happen. So now that we've talked about that, we can go ahead and finish the video.
My name is Armando Hogan. I'm a deputy chief with the Los Angeles Fire Department. I currently serve as the commander of Operations West Bureau, and I'm a 36-year veteran. I was fortunate to get involved with the CERT program through Assistant Chief Frank Borden, who at the time was in charge of the Disaster Preparedness Division.
It all happened within 1 year, where I got the idea of developing a community-based, self-sufficient neighborhood response plan. And that was a result of me going with a team of people to Japan in September in 1985 to observe their earthquake preparedness plan. And so what we did see there were people that were trained in neighborhoods to do medical, to do evacuation, and to do some fire suppression. But it was pretty apparent that people are interested in volunteering and being trained to help their neighbors. And I thought, well, that's really a good thing, a good thought to bring back to LA. But right after that, the Mexico City earthquake hit.
Mexico City, which was an 8.1, and there were a little over 10,000 people who lost their lives and a little over 30,000 that actually were injured. And, 100 untrained rescuers, as a result of that earthquake, lost their lives. And it was found that happened because they had no prior training of, the dangers of going into void spaces and things. And so they were really acting very holistically and trying to help family members and friends and neighbors, but they just didn't understand and they were not aware of the inherent dangers that exist after, structural collapse.
I actually led a team from LA to go down to Mexico City to learn from that experience and bring back those lessons to the city of LA to see what we could do to improve our response operation.
Chief Borton basically was looking at earthquakes and some of the challenges that we were facing in the city, and the fact that we were looking at how resources could be impacted and not being able to get to all areas of the city based on whether the roads are compromised or if there's some challenges in that regard. So the CERT program was just a natural progression.
If people are willing to respond, people are willing to be trained to respond, that would be something that we should do in LA.
He came back and thought, wow, we wouldn't want that to happen here in Los Angeles, and certainly we are very prone to earthquakes as well as wildfire. And so in 1986, he kind of launched this concept.
So I wrote up a concept paper of a civilian, if you will, emergency response team, CERT.
The powers to be realized, hey, there's some very significant value to having a program like this.
So we started building the CERT program at that point with the best instructors we could find and started training.
I was asked to come down and interview. I did so, and the rest is history. I was one of the first members to be a part of the instructional cadre.
In 1991, when FEMA was looking for the best community preparedness program in the country, that they said, Los Angeles, you have the best program, and we want to use that to expand it across the United States. The program actually grew very fast. The word got out, let's put it that way.
The CERT program has evolved really what we would say, maybe describing it to say it's off the chart.
It's a program that the Los Angeles Fire Department started, and I was fortunate enough to just be a part of that.
All 50 states in the United States have a CERT program, a formal CERT program.
It's really just blossomed into something that is so successful. Even smaller municipalities, volunteer departments, it's the old saying, you don't know what you don't know. And once they start getting involved and realize the value of the training.
The CERT program today is beyond what I thought it would be.
It keeps getting bigger and better. It gains more momentum as more people become aware of the value that it has.
I can't thank the individuals enough for their hard work, their dedication, their commitment. And I tell you, the pride I have for this program, it just goes beyond mention.
I think the future of the CERT program is, I'll say the sky's the limit. It's endless where this is going to go in the future, and it's exciting. It's exciting to see.
It's an emotional thing for me. It really is, because to think about where it's gone and where it's going, it's not going to stop. I mean, this program is good.
To this day, I like to go out to the CERT graduations or the CERT opening night to let folks know how important it is and how supportive that I am from a personal perspective.
Happily surprised that the country of China is using our CERT program to train people in their community.
There are currently over 2,800 active CERT programs in the United States and international CERT programs in Chile, Mexico, Brazil, Canada, China, and Laos.
So the conference website, nationalcert.org, will transfer to be the website for the National CERT Association. As soon as Jamie and Steve get some work done and put some information in there, you'll learn how to be involved, okay? So check back, give them 2 months, 3 months, I don't know. But yes, definitely check back. So that's very exciting, right? Liliana, I'm gonna call you to the stage. Now it's just housekeeping for the rest of the conference. Liliana, while she's coming up, after we go over kind of the conference, we're gonna take a group photo. So please, we want everyone to really quickly go to the area, volunteers will escort you, take your photo, then you'll have a nice 45-minute break before lunch is served, okay? But Liliana's gonna talk a little bit about some of the services we're offering during this conference.
Thank you. What a great video. Pretty amazing. I was honored to meet Mr. Frank Borden in the conference at Universal Studios that we had, and I was like goosebumps and tears in my eyes, and pretty amazing. Other than Listos, I also do Spanish language CERT, and so I've done that for a while now, and I want to call Miss Suzette Brecker. Raise your hand over there. And Mr. Jim Yoke, where are you? Stand up over here. So these are our representatives for Spanish CERT in the state of California. So the three of us are always here to provide any answers we can for Spanish language CERT. So I want to talk a little bit about what we're offering, right? So this is a very inclusive conference that we're holding, and we have few countries representing. We have, and we'll talk a little bit about more in the award ceremony, but I just want to say that we do have interpretation. And in the breakout sessions, we chose the sessions that were more culturally relevant and would be of more interest for our Spanish language speakers. And so I want to just say that we will have interpretation for the psychological first aid training session. We will have for the CERT program manager questions and answers with FEMA and state administrators. And we will have for the Stop the Bleed breakouts. So those are the ones that are going to be interpreted. If you have your very own friend that wants to be an interpreter for you, feel free to bring him with you and go to another session, right? That always creates community. And for the other breakout sessions, we will have for preparing volunteers for deployment, disaster awareness and basic communications that will be available in Spanish language as well. Incorporated access and functional needs into your CERT program. That will be interpreted as well. And neighborhood building community readiness from the block up will also be interpreted. Enhancing the culture of youth preparedness, using Shakeout to reach your community, training you are the help until the help arrives. And we will also have for Saturday volunteer call-out programs and the cultural competency. Not because I'm teaching it, but I really suggest you go to that one. It's a really good one. And then improvisational leadership for CERT. Enhancing cultural, yay, shout out. Enhancing the culture of youth preparedness and creative recruitment and retention for strategy. I know that was a lot, right? But Suzette, Jim, and I will be available throughout the lunch, throughout the days. If you have questions of which breakout sessions will be available in Spanish, feel free to reach out to us. And I just want to, I keep thanking Suva. I even send him really nice texts with little hearts and happy faces. And I can't thank him enough that he has provided us this opportunity to really provide our whole community with the opportunity to be in the same room and learn from each other and network. And it just, I can't thank you enough. You know I love you deep down inside.
I didn't have a choice. Governor's office and Karen was like, look, you include Listos or else. And I was like, well, I like a paycheck. I got to pay my rent. So, okay. So just kidding, of course. A couple of other things. So you notice in your, there's your program guide. There's the 2-pagers, the Tenify app. If you get mixed signals because we had to update, this is what we're following, okay? So you follow this if you want to get into the class. Classes are first come, first serve, which means that the smart thing to do is go into a class, claim your seat, and then go network while you wait for the class to start, and then go use the restroom. Otherwise, it's going to get full. Right? There's 650 people here, and each classroom only fits like 80 to 100. So get there quickly and early. You also notice that we have a lot of trainings, right? We heard that people wanted trainings. They want to come and get certificates, okay? With regarding the trainings, a lot of them are going to be 2 modules together because training has to be 4 hours. We cannot, it's a conference. We can't skip and say, oh, you're 75 minutes for your certificate. So that means you have to take both sessions to get your certificate. Okay, and that'll be 4 hours long. They're all in the afternoon, so it's from 1 to 5 o'clock. The other sessions will end about 4:15, 4:30, depending on the presenter. But definitely take advantage of those trainings. Also, you're going to notice, well, first of all, this is a spiffy little jacket, right? It's a little hot for me. People have said they like this jacket. We don't have a lot left, but I'm willing to raffle off this one if someone doesn't mind. It's slightly used. I mean, on Craigslist, I think I get it for $50 still. But if people are interested, and you know what, if you win the raffle and you get this and you don't want this, I won't be hurt. Pick a better prize, okay? But if you're interested in I believe this is a large, and thank you to Merit for donating these. You'll get that. So speaking of Merit, Merit is also one of our sponsors that support this conference, and they support the Florida conference, and God willing, they'll support the Missouri conference as well. And they're helping us track our interactions, right? We're going to be using them as part of our California Fall campaign in the CERT and Listos capacity as we're going out to engage Californians. They're going to provide their technology platform to us for free, for all CERT programs to use and Listos programs to use to track their volunteers, and then as they go out and do an event, track that, which allows us to report. So when the governor's office says, what's our numbers look like this month, Suva? I say, this month, this is all the engagement that happened. We're up to this part of our 1 million goal. So we're going to practice that, right? We're going to show you how you can use Merit by showing you how to use it during this conference. All certificates printed for this conference will be through the Merit system. As you go into every single breakout, there's going to be a volunteer with an iPad helping to check you in. Okay, it's going to be really quick to check you in, and then that's going to be what we're going to be used to track your iPad. That's also going to allow us to track which classes are more interesting to people. So next time for the next conference, we're going to have those kind of classes. We can make sure those classes have the biggest rooms. We also are going to have a dinner, dance, and karaoke Friday night. So if you made it to Florida last year, we added karaoke. We started and we said, you know, we really have to go out with a bang. And they did not budget for karaoke, so we raised the tip jar in the quote-unquote networking suite and raised about $1,000 to pay for the DJ to come out and do karaoke. Steve said this is a must for the Missouri conference. And then we said, you know, when we planned our conference, we want to make sure everyone had a good time too, right? A lot of you guys are here with your family members, and we understand that you would not be able to do this without the support of your family. So if you have family that's with you, let me know. We'll get them extra dinner. They're invited to join us for dinner, dancing, and karaoke also, okay? Now, people will say, Suva, we want you to dance. That ain't happening, okay? That is not happening. Well, let's look. That can happen. The price is $5,000 in the tip jar, so not by one person. You raise $5,000. All the money in the tip jars in the quote-unquote networking suite, sponsored by Sigma Merit also, is going to go to the NCA, right? Just like Liliana mentioned, new things cost money. Hosting a website costs money. People can promote all the time, but we don't ask them to promote their money as well, too. So all those tips will go to help seed the NCA. So if we hit $5,000 in tips, maybe I'll dance. Or sing, dealer's choice, okay? I think that's about it. So voice of God, if you want to give directions on the photo opportunity.